Welcome to today's magical morning yoga flow. This is a nourishing sequence to help you reconnect with your inner state of peace and well-being. When you're ready, afford yourself a moment to find a comfortable seated position. You might like to join me in diamond pose, Vajrasana, resting atop of the shins, maybe closing the eyes. Giving yourself space to detach from whatever was going on before this class. Knowing that there's no need to be concerned with your obligations for afterwards. Recognizing the strength and the courage that you have demonstrated showing up here in this very moment. Cultivating the space to be present. Beginning to tune into the breath. Noticing any sensations that might be going on in the body. Perhaps there are some mental narratives that you are repeating to yourself. Giving yourself space to be as you are. No judgment. On your next inhale, gently extending the arms skywards, joining the palms together. Exhale, lowering the palms to heart center, and again, inhale, raise. Exhale, lower. Once more. Transitioning into a tabletop position, coming onto all fours. Wrists are underneath shoulders, knees are underneath the hips. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, round the spine, cat pose. And again, inhale, spinal extension. Exhale, spinal flexion. Reminding yourself that these spinal waves originate at the base of the spine and the head and the neck move last. Noticing where you are feeling sensation in this moment. On your next inhale, we'll pause in cow pose for a few breaths. Broadening across the heart space, rolling the shoulders back. Exhale, cat pose, breathing into the back body, separating the shoulder blades, engaging the core muscles. One more breath. Inhale, tabletop. From here, extending the right leg back, grounding down through the palms and the left leg. Inhale, float the right leg up to hip height. The right foot is flexed and the toes and the kneecap are facing towards the earth. From here, we'll open our leg out to the side and return to our starting position. Keeping the toes pointed this time, keeping the legs straight. Doing your best to keep that right leg elevated at hip height. Seeing if you can keep the left hip in line with the left knee. From here, re-extending the right leg behind you, raising the left arm as we come up into bird dog, Dandayamana Brahmanasana. Fingertips are reaching forwards, palm is facing towards the midline. And either staying here or joining us in tiger pose via Vajrasana, flexing the right knee, guiding the right heel to the glutes, and using your left arm to grab a hold of the medial edge of that right ankle. Feeling a beautiful heart opener. This is quite a deep back bend, so really engaging the core muscles here to protect the lower back. One more breath. Inhale, bird dog, and mindfully return to tabletop position. Rounding the spine, taking one breath in cat pose, finding a nice counter posture. Returning to tabletop, and we'll prepare for the other side, extending the left leg, engaging the core. Inhale, raise the left leg to hip height. One breath here, pointing the toes, opening the left leg out to the side, and returning the leg behind you. really turning on the glute med here. You might be feeling it after we worked the muscles on the supporting leg. So moving with fluidity, knowing that you can always slow down or speed up the movements to really honor your own practice. From here, coming into bird dog. One breath here. Either staying here or joining us in tiger pose. Reaching the right arm back to grab a hold of that left leg, seeing if you can guide the left foot skywards. A beautiful opener for the hip flexors as well. This is a great posture to improve stability and balance whilst remaining close to the earth. One more breath. Inhale, re-extend the right arm and the left leg, bird dog. Exhale, tabletop. And once more, taking a breath in cat pose, breathing into the back body. Returning to tabletop, grounding down through the palms and the left leg. We are going to open the right knee out to the side, extend the leg at hip height, and begin to lift and lower that leg, keeping it straight, ever so slightly tapping the big toe down on the earth and raising that leg. Once more. Well done, and we'll take this on the other side, this time raising and lowering the left leg, keeping those toes pointed, keeping that leg as straight as possible. Maybe inviting a smile onto your lips. You can do this once more. Well done, returning to tabletop, widening the knees slightly, big toes together, sinking the hips back towards the heels, child's pose. Inhale, roll forward, coming into Cobra Bhujangasana. Exhale, push back into child's pose, and again, inhale, Cobra, gaze up. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, spinal flexion, rolling through just like cat pose. And on your exhale, spinal extension, mimicking the posture of cow pose. A few more times, keeping the arms straight throughout this movement. Imagining as though you are an ocean wave, moving with grace, moving with fluidity. Really honoring your own cadence. And this time pausing in Cobra for a few breaths. Exhale, push back into child's pose, surrender to this posture. Breathe. On your next inhale, raising to tabletop, walking the fingertips out a few centimeters, tucking the toes under, raising the hips, extending the legs, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. It might feel nice to bend one knee at a time, straightening the other, feeling a beautiful release along the outer hips, and in your own time finding stillness. One breath here. Inhale, raise the heels, spinal wave, coming through to upward facing dog, keeping the pelvis and the legs elevated. Exhale, downward facing dog, and again. Inhale, spinal flexion, gaze up. Exhale, spinal extension, send the hips back. A few more times. If this ever becomes too intense for the lower back or the arms, you're more than welcome to transition between Cobra and child's pose, really honoring your energy levels. On this next roll through, we'll stay in upward facing dog for a few breaths. Exhale, downward facing dog. Well done. Reconnecting with the breath, grounding down through the index fingers and the thumbs to really help support the wrists. Gently lowering the knees to the floor, sinking the hips back to the heels, child's pose. Breathe. On your next inhale, rising through tabletop, tenting up onto the fingertips, engaging the core, guiding the right knee to the chest, and gently placing the right foot between the fingers. Crescent Moon, Anjaneyasana, either staying with your fingertips connected to the earth, or inhaling and raising the arms skywards, perhaps joining the palms together. A slight back bend through the upper thoracic region of the spine. Scissoring the inner thighs together to really help lift the pelvic ball. 2 more mindful breaths in Anjaneyasana. From here, interlacing the fingers together behind the back, arms are extended, gaze up. Exhale, send the hips back, straighten the front leg. Ardha Hanumanasana with a bind, extending the arms overhead. If you wobble around a little bit, know that that's okay. It's an opportunity to reconnect with your inner state of balance. Inhale, Anjaneyasana, raise the arms, frame the front foot, and return to tabletop position. Sink the hips back, child's pose. Perhaps using this as an opportunity to reconnect with your present experience, reconnect with the breath. Inhale, raise to tabletop, tent up onto the fingertips, and this time setting up for Anjaneyasana with the left leg in front. Raising the arms skywards, maybe closing the eyes. Feeling yourself releasing any stored emotions that might be stagnating around the heart space. Noticing yourself becoming lighter, more at ease, more peaceful. One more breath. From here, extending the arms behind the back, interlacing the fingers together, broaden across the heart space, gaze up. Exhale, send the hips back, extend to the left leg, Ardha Hanumanasana, guiding the bind overhead. Breathe. On your next inhale, mindfully returning to Anjaneyasana. One breath here, framing the front foot, stepping through tabletop, exhaling child's pose. Well done. Inhale, raising to tabletop, again tenting up onto the fingertips, and this time guiding the right foot to the outer edge of the right wrist. Maybe keeping the left knee grounded, or if you'd like, tucking the back toes and extending that left leg as we come into lizard posture, Uttanapaditasana. Perhaps lowering down onto the forearms, sinking the hips down towards the earth. For a slightly different hip stretch, you might like to roll onto the blade edge of that right foot, externally rotating the hip. Maybe raising the right arm skywards, gazing up. You might like to create a mudra with those fingers, really helping to guide your awareness to the body. Returning both forearms to the earth, re-extending the arms, lowering the back knee down. And we'll take a one-legged lizard pose, Ekapada Uttanapaditasana. Flexing the left knee, guiding the left heel to the glutes, and using the right palm to grab a hold of that foot, guiding the foot to the back body, gazing backwards. For a deeper stretch, you might like to square the hips, grabbing the medial edge of that left foot with the right hand, squaring the shoulders, and returning to lizard pose. From here, plank pose, drop the knees, tabletop position, and we'll set up for the other side, tenting up onto the fingertips. guiding the left foot to the outer edge of the left wrist, and finding your variation of lizard pose. Reminding yourself that you can always take a few moments to shake out the hips, release any tension that might be stagnating around the joints, the ligaments, and in your own time finding stillness. From here, dropping the right knee down, we'll come into one-legged lizard pose. So flexing the right knee, guiding the right heel to the glutes as we extend the left arm overhead and around the body to grab a hold of that right foot. Gazing upwards over that left shoulder, relaxing the facial features, feeling a beautiful stretch for the quadricep and the hip flexors on the right hand side. Breathe. Mindfully releasing from the posture, returning both palms under the shoulders, extending the legs, stepping back into plank pose, lowering the knees, and child's pose. A few breaths here. Inhale, rolling up to diamond pose, resting the sits bones atop of the heels. And you might like to stay here, that could be enough for you. If not, we are going to prepare for camel pose, ustrasana. So, raising up into a kneeling position, knees are in line with the hips, toes are pointed. The first option is baby camel, so placing your palms on the sacral region of the spine, fingertips facing towards the earth, broadening across the heart space, joining the shoulders, the elbows together as you gaze up, pushing the hips forwards. Perhaps trying that again, really opening the heart space here, relaxing the glute muscles. Inhale, raise, and perhaps finding a full expression of this posture. Extending one arm back at a time to grab a hold of the heels. If it's in your practice, perhaps dropping the head back or gazing upwards. Noticing if you begin to clench and tighten up the glutes, that could be an indication that you've gone a little too far into this posture. Seeing where you can relax and create space. One more breath. Mindfully returning the palms to the sacral region of the spine, returning the sits bones to the heels, diamond pose. Inhale, rise to a kneeling position, either staying with a static camel or we'll come into a dynamic camel. Guiding the right palm to the right heel, raising the left arm overhead, lowering the hips down to the heels and swooping the body round to the opposite side. Feeling a beautiful back bend. A really beautiful way to invite space and creativity into the body, particularly after a night's rest. Making these as small or as large as you would like. And when you're ready, finding a static variation of camel pose. Breathe. One more breath. And mindfully guiding yourself upright, gently returning the sits bones to the heels. And mindfully guiding the torso down towards the earth, coming into a child's pose. And this time the arms are extended the length of the body, palms facing skywards. Feeling a beautiful release around the upper back. Breathing into the back body. From here, coming into rabbit pose, placing the palms under the shoulders, raising the hips, keeping the spine in a flexion, guiding the top of the head, the crown of the head down onto the mat, and if possible, guiding the forehead as close to the knees, the thighs as you can, grabbing onto the backs of the heels, really feeling a beautiful release along the spinal column. Two more mindful breaths in rabbit pose. And gently rolling up to a seated position. Well done. We'll come into another heart opener, so if you feel like this has been enough for your lower back and you'd like to rest in diamond pose, know that that is okay. And if not, coming into a kneeling position, knees are together, separating the shins slightly, scooping out the fleshy portion of the calf muscles, beginning to lower the thighs down between the legs, toes are pointed towards the back of the mat. This could be an option for you, or placing the palms underneath the shoulders, fingertips facing towards the toes, or out to the side, or perhaps behind you. Broadening across the heart space, extending the arms, gazing up, and maybe lowering down onto the forearms, keeping the elbows aligned with the shoulders, perhaps dropping the head back. Or if you'd like to come into a supine expression of hero pose, mindfully lowering the torso, the upper body, the head and the neck down onto the mat. Finding an arm positioning that is conducive with where you're at, perhaps interlacing the fingers together overhead, grabbing opposite elbow, cactusing the arms out wide or extending the arms the length of the body. Guiding your awareness to the sensations around the knees, perhaps the quadriceps, the hips, and giving yourself permission to soften, easing in, and letting go. If you were in a reclined variation of hero pose, placing the palms on the heels, grounding down through the forearms, the elbows to help raise the torso, returning the spinal column to a neutral position, and from here extending the legs out in front, bending the knees, placing the palms under the thighs, inhale, spinal extension, gaze up, exhale, spinal flexion, twice more, finding a seated variation of cat and cow. From here we will come into fish pose, keeping the knees bent, placing the palms down on the mat behind you, lowering down onto the forearms, elbows are underneath shoulders, and we'll guide our palms underneath the sacral region of the spine, guiding the head back, resting the crown of the head atop of the earth, perhaps extending one leg at a time. If that feels okay, you might like to extend both legs out. Really puffing up the chest here, opening the heart space, relaxing the shoulders. You might like to point the toes to keep that intentionality in the entire body. Breathe. Taking one more mindful breath in fish pose. If your legs were extended, bending one knee at a time, gently raising the head, raising the torso, and again taking a few variations of that seated cat-cow to help invite some mobility into the spine. When you feel sufficiently relaxed, we will roll down one vertebra at a time using core strength, coming to lie on your back. Bending the knees, guiding the heels towards the glutes, and we'll set up for butterfly pose, Supta Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together, grounding down through the blade edges of the feet. Knees are bent, allowing the knees to splay wide. Relaxing the hips, perhaps placing one palm on the belly, the other on the heart space, really facilitating a deeper connection to the breath. We'll be here for about the next 8 to 10 breaths, so really giving yourself the space to slow down and to soften. When you're ready, setting up for Savasana, final relaxation, extending the legs, the arms, guiding your awareness to each region of the body, sending yourself loving energy, and being okay with what's going on for you in this moment. Remembering that it is a practice, and that the breath is always here as an anchor to help you stay connected to all that is wholesome and pure and lovely. When you're ready, you might like to invite some small movements into the body, reanimating your experience. Perhaps extending the arms overhead, interlacing the fingers, stretching the body in either direction. And when you're ready, rolling to one side, keeping the eyes closed, and guiding yourself upright to a seated position. Roll the shoulders back. Inhale, raise the arms overhead. Exhale, palms to heart center. Gifting yourself the permission to close practice in a space of gratitude. Honoring your efforts to be here in this very moment cultivating a space of health and harmony as you nourish the mind, the body, and the soul. Thank you all so much for today. Namaste.